Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 6 of our podcast, Two Amazon Sellers and a Microphone. I'm Dustin Kane, and as always, with me is Chris Granlich. Chris, how you doing?
Good, Dustin. How you doing?
Doing fantastic. Excited because our Chiefs won last night.
Yes,
Amazing.
awesome.
Great game. So that's always a good way to start the week is with a Chiefs win. Also excited that we are on episode 6 of our podcast. That's hard to believe. We are cranking along. And today we're going to be talking about how to get started selling on Amazon. So we're going to really just break down for those of you out there that are listening, you haven't, jumped on, pulled the trigger yet and got started. We're going to just break down some real actionable steps for you so that you can just go step, because like anything else, you get started by doing one step after the next. And so we'll break down those actionable steps so that in no time you're actually running your own Amazon business. So I'm super excited to talk about this. We've talked in previous podcasts, creating our own business and using Amazon to launch our business really changed a lot in our lives. And so I get excited talking about it and how we can just give actionable steps to others so they can take the same road. So anyway, let's dig in. Chris, I'm pumped about this, and we're just going to go right in with how to start.
Cool. Yeah, let's do this. So the first thing I got here on the slide is some people get mixed up and they pick a product, like they go out and find product first. I made this mistake, and I have since transitioned to figure out who my customer is. And so who do I want to target? That's like the first thing I would recommend doing is figure out who your customer avatar is and then find products that they buy. It'll make it easier for you to launch. It'll make it easier for you to create like a brand and be the authority for that type of niche. So that would be the first thing is figure out who your audience is. Instead of figuring out who a product is like everybody else is doing and trying to figure out what product to sell, it's easier to figure out who your audience is and then find products that they buy. Moms, parents, dogs, owners, people who love their yard, landscapers, guys who grill. Like, figure out who those people are first.
I completely agree. It's very easy if your customer avatar is you. You know how to sell to you. So, for example, I play tennis. I'm a tennis player, so I speak the lingo. I could sell something to a tennis player. So that's part of, I think, coming up with that customer avatar is, you can find every niche has a million products in it. So you're not going to be limited. And it certainly is easier to sell something that you know about, and even better if you're passionate about it or if you understand the passion for that niche. So absolutely great suggestion. It can just save you a ton of time and just product research because it's already going to narrow your focus down as well. So I guess one step though before this, Chris, we didn't talk about is you actually have to sign up for an Amazon account.
Yeah, that's probably important.
The first step you need to do is go to sellercentral.amazon.com and sign up for your account. You can sign up for free initially. They have 2 plans, an individual plan and a professional plan. You're going to want to be on that professional plan down the road. And that's, I believe, $39 a month, $40 a month. If you start off on the individual plan, which you can certainly do to sell your first couple of products, they charge you a fee per sale. The fee. So that's step 1. Then work on your customer avatar. And let's talk about the next step where we're going to have to validate some products.
Yeah, so you can find local groups in your area, or you can find groups online, Facebook groups, social media groups, and you can kind of go out and hang out in there and kind of see what they're talking about and see what kind of products that they may be buying, or you can get product feedback on some of the products that they're buying. Some of the good apps, like there's a local meetup group called the app is called Meetup. If you just download that app, you can find people that are, passionate about fitness or passionate about gardening or whatever. You can go to those groups and just show them that you're interested and maybe that they would be able to help you with products that maybe they have trouble with, and maybe you can come up with an idea on how to fix a product that's already existing or already exists. So I like, check out the group, because that's going to be easier for you when you launch, especially on a new product. You can go back to that group and give them some type of discount code, or you can ask them to, buy the product full price and then do the whole follow-up sequence stuff. But yeah, this is good because this gives you an audience that you want to launch a product to.
Absolutely. Great tip. Yeah. And obviously you want to be transparent with them.
Yeah.
If you're, and a lot of when you're joining these groups, I mean, like you mentioned, I mean, you're basically developing your customer base at the same time as you're researching products. So they can absolutely be your first buyers of your product. So you're just instilling loyalty with the group. So you can do that virtually as well.
Yep.
There's lots of different ways. You can join different Facebook groups, like you're talking about, or any sort of social media group that's fans of whatever category you're going after. Great way to develop. All right. Now it's the product validation. Chris, why don't you talk a little bit about some of the steps that you do to validate a product once you've narrowed your search down?
Yeah. So once you've got, a list of 5 to 10 products that you're interested in, you can use Amazon to gauge the interest or the amount of the market depth when you pick those products. There's some good tools out there that can kind of give you a revenue estimate, like how far a product sells, how many units of product sells a month, or how competitive a niche is. So there's some extensions out there you can just add to your browser, and then when you type in, that product name or that search term that you're going after, use those extensions to kind of validate if this product is something that you should target. And some of those things that I like to use, and these are some just targets that I personally use to kind of make sure that the product is going to be something that has good demand, is there should be at least 5 products on page 1, less than 300 reviews, but they're selling at least $10,000 a month in revenue. Mm-hmm. That shows you good depth, meaning that there's a lot of demand, that you can compete within that niche. And less than 300 reviews, that's not a lot. I mean, it's a lot, but it's not more than you can compete with. Mm-hmm. So 5 products that have less than 300 reviews that sell at least $10,000 a month in revenue is the first thing I go after. Mm-hmm. The second thing I go after is making sure that there's enough keywords or enough search volume for those products. So there needs to be at least 5 keywords that have a search volume higher than 5,000 searches a month. That's where you'll see a lot of people searching, and they search for a product in different areas. So there's very long tail keywords you can go after. There's more than one keyword you can target. This just makes it easier for your product to kind of get its legs and kind of start moving, because there's more than one keyword that you can target. So I like to make sure that there's at least 5 keywords that I can go after that have a search volume search volume of 5,000 searches a month. These last 3 that I got on here, these are kind of some things I like to go by as well. No more than 2 to 3 products on page 1 with 1,000 reviews. So if there's more than 2 to 3 products on page 1 for those keywords that you're going to go after, if they have more than 1,000 reviews, I would maybe move on to another product. Mm-hmm. The reason for that is it's going to be hard to compete, especially when you have products that have more than 1,000 reviews. Now, if you're out building a brand and you've already got that authority with those groups you're going to attend, this may not be that big of a step, big of a hassle, because you're going to get that initial launch from that group you're already talking to. But in the long run, it's going to be tough to compete with products that have have 2,000, 3,000 reviews on page 1. Last ones here, target margin of 30%. This is just what kind of things I have. I want to make sure that my product has a margin of at least 30% or a return on investment of 150%. So those are my minimum things. Those are super important, especially after you find a product, you do some negotiation with your suppliers. You want to make sure your target margin is at least 30 and your return on investment is at least 150%.
Those are absolutely great tips, Chris. I use a very similar strategy when I'm validating my products. The whole reason to do this is you're presetting how easy it is going to be to launch the product on Amazon. I mean, if you've got competitors like you mentioned before, where they've just thousands and thousands of reviews, your listing right next to that listing is going to look inferior for a long time until you get the reviews to be able to compete with it. Obviously, that's not the end all right there, but that can be a major stumbling block when you're launching. So this allows you, if you can validate your product to be within those targets that you set, Chris, you can validate that you'll be able to reasonably launch your product on Amazon. It won't cost you a fortune in advertising, etc. So yeah, absolutely great tips there on validating it. One thing about the margin when you're validating your product, make sure you know what all the Amazon fees are going to be. Those tools that you're mentioning before, and also if you're wanting those tools to help you validate your product, in the last podcast we went over a bunch of free tools that you can use, and a lot of those free tools do this, where you can estimate search volume, keyword volume, etc. So take a listen to that podcast and use those tools. But you got to make sure you understand what the FBA fees are, because most of my products, it's about 33%, 33%, 33%, where 33% goes to Amazon, 33% is my profit, and 33% is my cost of goods sold. So yeah, great suggestions there, Chris. All right, let's move along. Now, once you validated the product, you need to source the product. There are a lot of resources out there for sourcing products. Some of the big ones are Alibaba and AliExpress, ThomasNet, and 1688.com. You're going to want to go to these. These are basically resources that sort of connect manufacturers with buyers. It's almost like these are like yellow pages for manufacturers, where they're promoting their manufacturing, what they sell. So I use Alibaba quite a bit. You can go on to Alibaba, type in whatever your product is, and then boom, it'll load up all of the manufacturers that sell that product, and you can look at their price, their listings. They can look at pictures of their factory, and then you can easily contact them. So these are great resources to find your supplier. Yeah. You have any other suggestions on that? Because we'll talk about here in a second, questions to ask them, et cetera, your suppliers.
Yeah. I mean, everybody's should be familiar with Alibaba. They've seen that before. They've heard that before. But there's things you can do before committing to a large order. You could use AliExpress and do like a small sample order first on a product. You can use Etsy if you wanted to get something that's maybe more of like a handmade product, and test it out there first with something on Etsy. I think that's a good way to get a product idea, is using Etsy, because there's a lot of products that are on Etsy that are like handmade and maybe have a lot of demand that aren't on Amazon yet. So that could be a place to start. ThomasNet is one that I've used for like made in the USA products, with the local suppliers in the USA. Your turnaround times are faster. You're going to pay more, but you're going to be able to turn product faster because it's not being shipped across the ocean, and you're going to be able to get it faster. 1688 is like the eBay over in China. It's where you can compare prices. So once you do find a product, and once you do have a supplier, you can use 1688 as a way to negotiate for a better price, because you can say, hey, I found this price cheaper. You will have to do some translation on 1688, but it'll be worth it. It'll save you some money. So those are just some good tools and good things to keep in your back pocket. So before you commit to an order, you may want to double check these.
Absolutely. I think it's also important to point out right now that when you are initially sourcing your product, you don't have to have everything done. It doesn't have to be your brand name on it. It doesn't have to be the packaging doesn't have to be all set yet. You can just order, for example, like on AliExpress. AliExpress is basically like going to Amazon.com. I mean, you're just ordering products. You can just usually order them for cheap and in bulk. So you can go to AliExpress, order 10 products. It may even have their own brand name on it, but you can create the listing, start selling. That's another step to validating it. If they start selling, then yes, okay, now let's invest in the brand name and the packaging, etc. So don't get hung up on having everything ready at the get-go. You can just find some products that are basically blank products and sell them.
That's a good point, because some people get like, oh, I have to have a brand name. I need to come up with a brand name and all this. Like, speaking from experience, just go. Like, just find a product, brand it later. Just get moving. Don't waste too much time figuring out what brand name you want or a website you need to buy. None of that stuff. That's just getting you lost, and you're going to get you're sidetracked. So just focus on a product, find a supplier, and start the ball that way.
I talk to people all the time that are saying, well, I'm not going to launch it yet. I'm waiting on my trademark. It's like 9 months to get a trademark. And what if the product is a bust? Now you wasted time and you wasted money on a trademark. Yeah, I mean, I have multiple trademarks for different brands, but I also have tons of brands on Amazon still that I don't have trademarked, and I won't go that route until there's real proof of concept. So, that take action immediately. Don't get bogged down on stuff like that. All right, once you've now started talking to suppliers, you need to get some samples. All right. So you want to order samples from multiple suppliers, and you want to order more than one sample from each supplier. So you can contact them. One thing to note about samples is most suppliers drastically overcharge you for the sample.
Yeah.
It'll be something absurd. It'll be
you just have to pay it. Like, that's just part of it. It's
going to be like 4 times the retail price of the product.
Right.
It's like what? But they do that for a reason. They're not trying to sell individual orders. So people could manipulate all the time and ask for a sample for cheap so that's why they don't do it. But whatever you can do is whatever that sample cost is, you can have that taken off of your first order. Almost every supplier will do that. So don't get caught up in the cost for samples, because they're going to be way more expensive than you think. So order those samples. They're going to come to you. Then you've got to compare them. And so test them out, bang them around, whatever the product is, whatever you need to do, test its durability, test how it works. You'll see the difference in quality for sure. And then you need to start talking to the suppliers and negotiating your price. Typically, we talked about this on the last episode, or one of our recent episodes. A good strategy is to start off the conversation asking for a quote for a large order, like 5,000 units. Even if that's not what you're going to be doing, number one, it brings you in as a serious buyer, and number two, you're going to find out what the actual unit cost is for an order like that. It's much easier to work backwards than to work that way. And then you'll have all the data. You'll have samples. You'll have compared them. You'll have quotes from the suppliers. And now you get to pick one and then negotiate from there your actual first order. And typically you want to make a test order of depends on what the product is, but around 500 units once you've done all the validation is a good way to start. Yep. Anything you want to add to that, Chris?
Maybe when you compare, jot down like things that you want to change, or maybe things you want to add to the product. Maybe there's some, maybe the plastic on one supplier was too thin compared to another supplier, or maybe, or whatever it is to this feature or something like that. Just just write it down and then make sure you send it to your supplier and explain to them what you're looking for. You probably have to pay a little bit more, like your unit price will probably go up, but if it makes the product better and it solves the problem, and you can, sell it or differentiate yourself from your competition, it might be worth that extra few pennies, because it won't be probably much, but.
Absolutely. Yeah. I've had it where I've gotten samples from different suppliers and I really liked one feature, from the supplier, but I hated their price.
Yeah.
And so I asked the other supplier, could they add this feature to it? And they did, and they didn't even change the price. It barely changed at all. So yeah, that's the other advantage of ordering from multiple suppliers. So you can almost get more ideas as well. All right, next, once you've picked this product, picked your supplier, negotiated your first order, you're going to have to then deal with inspections, which you're going to want inspections. And I'll let Chris talk a little bit more about what that is. And then you're going to need to get them shipped from wherever they are, which means you're going to have to most likely deal with a freight forwarder. A lot of the suppliers will offer to handle all of your shipping for you. But there can be a lot of issues with letting your supplier. Number one, they won't break the price down for you. They're just going to include it in the shipping, and they're usually padding the cost. They're a little bit more off of that as well. Plus, there's a lot of things, tariffs, all that stuff that you want to make sure are done right. And so a freight forwarder can be really good. So let's go through the things that we have to do here. Inspections. Chris, what do you do to get your products inspected at the supplier's manufacturing plant before it gets shipped?
So before that, when you negotiate, you want to make sure that it's in writing somewhere on your terms that you want the same amount of quality that the sample was for your product. So that's super important. And then recently, I don't know, maybe it's been a year, I don't know, maybe 8-9 months. Alibaba came out with an inspection service. You can use an inspection service through them, but there's freight forwarders out there that do both shipping, and they will also do inspections for you. So there's services out there that you can use. So find one and stick with one. A lot of these will be able to record it. It's like an upgrade to get the inspection recorded. I would recommend doing that. It'll be done through Skype normally. And what will end up happening? It'll probably be in the middle of the night. It's not middle, probably like midnight, 11-ish or so, depending on where you're located. But it's pretty nice. It's a recording. You get to just watch the inspection company go through the factory. You'll be in your suppliers right there. He's there, so you can talk, or he or she's there, so you can talk to them as well. But you're going to go through, and they're going to show you the items, and they're going to inspect it and say, "Does this meet the quality?" You're going to be able to ask, "Let me see the inserts. Let me see the packaging. Let me make sure the UPC codes are correct. Let's make sure the product works if it's a battery." So I would definitely do that. Definitely get the recording, and then they're going to do a lot of photos. Get tons of photos. It's worth it to pay for the inspection. Because you don't want to get it to Amazon FBA and then it not have the right UPC code. I'm dealing with that right now. I had one of my products just got to FBA, and a guy sent me an email saying, "Hey, I just got this. This is the second time I've ordered it, but it's completely the wrong product." And so I've been doing some inspection this morning, and it had the wrong UPC code. So when I sent the label to my supplier, the UPC code was wrong. So it got checked in as a different item than what it really is. It's a headache. So that's super important to get your products inspected. And then the freight forwarder, they're just going to take care of the shipment for you. You don't want to try to get it out of China and then get it into FBA. You can use sources like Flexport or Freightos, or a few that I've used that kind of help with the freight forward or get the products to FBA. So those are some things that I would check out as well.
Absolutely. And a freight forwarder is just so helpful.
Yeah.
I mean, there's the logistics of going from China or wherever you're sourcing it to the Amazon warehouses is just overwhelming. I mean, it's going to be on a ship or an airplane, and then maybe a train, and then however it's going to get to the fulfillment centers. There's a lot of moving parts, but these freight forwarders, they have this down pat. They all understand how Amazon works. I mean, all of them are experts in how Amazon wants the products to show up. They understand the labeling and all of that. So hire them. It'll take a lot of headache away from you having to worry about any of that.
Quick tip here on that inspection part is, you'll hire somebody to do an inspection the first time. Maybe the second time you order, hire somebody different. And just kind of keep the supplier on their toes, because you're going to bring somebody back each time.
Sure.
I've seen it where you hire an inspection company and the inspection company and the supplier are like buddy, and they're really good friends, and they may not check everything. So I just constantly flip, like maybe choose another guy, different one, just to kind of keep your supplier honest, because you don't want corners cut there.
Absolutely. Great tip there, Chris. So that's it. Once you've gotten through these steps, you now have a product that will be live on Amazon and selling. So those are very actionable steps. If you're on the fence or you haven't really taken the first step to starting your business on Amazon, it's essentially following those steps where you come up with your customer avatar, you validate your product, you source your product, you get samples, and then you get it inspected and you get it shipped. Very actionable. Do one step at a time, and before long, you will have products selling on Amazon. And then we can talk to you about Sellozo and how we can go to the next step of start advertising your products, which would be once you're live. That is the next step, is you need to start advertising, which we'll discuss a lot on many future podcasts.
Sure.
But Chris, that was great. Great tips. I encourage everyone out there who's listening, just get started. Yep. Start building your customer avatar today, and just keep taking steps to building your business. Anyway, that was episode 6, and we will be doing episode 7 tomorrow, and we hope to see everybody back here. Chris, as always, it was a blast, and we'll see you tomorrow.
All right. See you, man.